How's everybody?
Great.
Morning.
Good morning. What's everybody's time zone? Where's everybody at?
I'm Eastern.
Okay, so you're
I'm
11
I'm Mountain.
Mountain. So you're what, 2 hours behind us? So
Yeah,
you're 9?
9.
Perfect. What's everybody drinking? Coffee?
Coffee.
What kind of coffee? What kind of mugs? Let's see the mugs. I'll show you my mug. Mine's a Mount Rushmore mug. I got it at Mount Rushmore. I like it. I like the blue in it. It's my go-to. It's very stained with coffee. Hello. Well, the whole point of Mugs and Monday Mugs and Money is to just kind of be a nonchalant, kind of I mean, I have an agenda if we need an agenda, but no real agenda. And just kind of talk about little things that are on people's minds and doesn't have to be super long. Um, and just chat. Sometimes it could be just finance stuff in general, business stuff, tax stuff. It could be, it could be client stuff. It could be whatever, right? It's just let's chat, drink a little coffee, and relax. What's everybody's goals for Monday? What's everybody's goals for Tuesday? What's everybody's goals for the week?
So Mondays, I know everybody's in a little different business. I run a financial services agency. So Monday, what I usually do is we do a agent meeting, usually for about 2 hours. We just got off of that, just kind of see when everybody's at, do some little training and stuff like that.
Yep.
Make everyone the focus of a certain amount of appointments per week. And then during the week, we just kind of monitor that. So usually what we like to do is on Sundays, like everyone going into the week, at least with 10 to 15 appointments on their schedule. And if they don't, then we just kind of help them work on what's happening and, just different things like that. So that's kind of usually our Monday training.
Cool. So what's your business model then? What do you do?
So like I said, I run a financial services agency. So we pretty much kind of like the Amazon of financial services. We do investments, retail brokerage, we do insurance, do a little PNC, different things like that. So I'm actually I'm in your group and Carson's group, and I
Cool.
always interact there as well. So there's a lot of great tips in there. I was also on the call on Friday that you guys did, the IUL and annuities call.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome, man. How did you enjoy that?
It was always good. It was always good. You guys always bring value, So those are like the two groups on Facebook I probably check the most, to be honest.
Awesome. That's what I like to hear, dude. That's what I like to hear. Yeah, we do try, to do our best at giving value without asking anything in return. You kind of have to look at kind of where you're at in your career or whatever, and kind of what gets you motivated. And I think Carson and I, we stay pretty motivated when we help other people. So it's almost like a selfish thing, honestly. We're kind of doing it. We're doing it selfishly because it motivates us when we can motivate other people too. And we like to spread a good information. It's not all the time. I mean, sometimes I get stuff wrong, but I do try. And Carson does too. I think that's why it works well with us. And he's a good dude, man. He knows a lot about IULs. A lot. Way more than me. I'm gonna start unmuting people and then calling everybody out. Lori, how about you? What's your Monday look like? What's your week look like?
So I'm a Medicare agent, and my day is taking care of a few service issues and calling some new leads that I got and setting up appointments. I'm just getting up to speed with annuities and learning. Um, I really like to know what I'm talking about before I sit down with people and talk to them about their money. So I'm absorbing information and learning about annuities at this point.
Okay. What would you say your biggest what's the biggest downfall? What is it about the annuity conversation or topic that is really hard for you to grasp or understand or whatever?
I think it's the details of the annuity itself and how they work and um, how they benefit. I don't have any problems getting into the conversation with people. I just want to know more about the nitty gritty details of annuities.
Yeah. 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 That's it. It's, without like a good foundation in time, it's hard. I mean, I like to equate it to like even Medicare or anything. Like who became an expert in anything day one, or even month one, or even year one, a lot of times, right? It just takes time. And
Yeah.
it sounds like I sound like a broken record, I'm sure sometimes, but it's really true because when you when you don't put time or you're not intentional with anything, it's hard to really start grasping it. And so like I know a lot of people, they really want to, like I want to be good at IULs and I want to be good at like in-depth financial planning and all that stuff, but I just don't spend enough time on it, right? So I'm willing to trade, I guess I'm comfortable with that. I'm willing to trade that off.
Yeah.
So it just depends on kind of where you're at in life, right?
Right.
What's a
And I agree
priority?
with you. I'm a first do no harm kind of person with my
You're a
clients, and
doctor.
I want to know what I'm talking about, and I want to I've had other people in the past say, "Oh, annuities are easy," and then give me like a 3-word, you just do this and that. Well, I need to know a lot more about them and suitability and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. If anybody says annuities are easy, yeah, that's silly. Now,
Turn it red. Yeah.
fixed annuities can be kind of easy, but no, they're not easy by any means. There's a lot. They seem easy to me now, but it's not easy. It's not easy by any
Yeah.
means. So
Yeah.
cool.
I'd like to add to that. I mean, Tracy's most likely the annuity expert, right? We do annuities as well, on a certain scale. And it's very situational because, like, Tracy always posts in the group, there's so many different annuities out there. Some of them look really, really attractive. So the first thing you got to understand is what is the client's goal. And then I think you can try to match an annuity with that goal. So one of the
Uh-huh.
things, like, if you're not, I don't know if you're contracted with anyone or anything like that, but a good start is always kind of like reading some of the brochures. A lot of them are pretty simple, and it gives you just kind of like a basic understanding of what an annuity is and how it can benefit someone. Like, people get annuities for different reasons. In a lot
Uh-huh.
of cases, people are looking for a lifetime income stream of some type. So that's kind of
Uh-huh.
like a starting point. That's kind of how I learned, like reading the brochures and plugging into different trainings. And you're going to hear a lot of different philosophies, but you have to develop one for yourself and for your clientele. But just learning, just like Tracy said, just learning a little bit day by day, is a good way to go, because it is a rabbit hole when you go down. So don't try to learn everything too fast. But if you learn a little bit each day or each week, you'll start to get more comfortable with it. Just like how you're probably comfortable with Medicare, once you start learning
Uh-huh.
annuity on a regular basis, you'll become comfortable with it as well. And it always changes. So you just want to kind of just stay in tune with what's going on, so you can, stay ahead of the curve and be a value add to your clients.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Good stuff. Good stuff, man. So is anybody here just other than Lori, not doing annuities, more doing something else like life insurance or Medicare full time, or and we don't have to talk about that stuff. I mean, today's talk about whatever. I mean, we do talk about annuities all day long. So so I actually, I'm gonna pivot here. Business, when you're in business for yourself, which most, I would say probably everybody on here is, maybe not, that's okay. But you're either an entrepreneur or you're an intrapreneur if you're trying to be successful in this industry, right? So, if you're one of those two, what would you guys say is your biggest challenge as being a business owner? Balancing time is it time management, or is it like P&Ls? Is it trying to figure out what you should spend in certain areas and not spend in other areas, and just trying to find a groove? Now that tax season is obviously upon us, we're looking at P&Ls from last year. If you guys aren't familiar with that, profit and loss statements. We're looking at P&Ls and trying to figure out how can we reduce costs in some areas and focus on other areas that made us more money. Something that I've always done is like a shotgun approach. I just like spend a ton of money on like 20 different things, and then whichever ones like hit, we just pour more money back into there, and until we are more specialized. I think 2 years ago, we did cross selling, and then we went from cross selling to leads, and then now I'm not actually using any leads. I'm just using webinars. What are your guys' biggest kind of pain points as entrepreneurs and business owners?
Hey Trace, how are you doing today?
Hey Don, doing well. How are you?
Sorry I was late. I apologize. Hey, I can kind of talk to that. After every year I kind of do the same thing. I don't do the whole shock and awe. We actually plan quarterly, trying to get to where we're doing, trying to make it a balance between how much comes in monthly, because I do Medicare. So I do that. So I have that passive residual income that pays the bills in between, and being able to do that value add for everybody. But it's learning when do you have that next point when you either need to hire somebody else, or like we went to this networking event, they were talking about virtual assistants, or having that next person of when it makes sense to take to that next person. Because it's one thing to add an agent and it's another thing to hire somebody, because they're totally different.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting. Is there like a perfect answer?
Probably not. I guess it really makes it more sense on what you're wanting to focus on, because like with the agents that come work with me, not everybody does. Like I'm probably the only one that does annuities because I believe in them and I really like what they do for people on the solid foundation. I don't like risk. I mean, that, right? But when I talk to my clients, being able to share that same thing, you can't sell what you like. You have to sell what they're needing. You have to be able to get that solution, right? But I also like Medicare, and I just love that, because I love to deal with people that have more knowledge and expertise than me. So when you deal with Medicare and you actually take care of them, and I'm strictly referral. I've never got a lead in my life.
Man, I would love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, but no perfect answer.
No, man, when it comes to like virtual assistants, that's such an interesting conversation, because I've always wanted somebody like physically, and even when I was working out of my house, I was just balancing everything. It's like, oh, nobody can do this the way that I can do it. And to some extent that's true, but you do have to kind of you have to give up control. And I think what's important is to try to give up control little bits at a time. And virtual assistants are great for that, because you can hire them little bits at a time, right? So like right now my assistant, she hates making phone calls, and that's okay. It's just not something she likes to do. And we have such an influx of people that are coming in from our webinars that we really need the phone calls to get through like fast. So to hire somebody is, for one, probably cheaper, and it frees up more of her time to do other things that she does like to do. And so that's what I'm looking into right now, is just working with the virtual assistant, dialing, an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon, and an hour in the evening, and trying to hit through all of our leads that we have coming in from our webinars. Because like we're doing, basically what we're doing is we're doing a webinar, and then we have about 100 households that are registering, and then we only have about 30 to 40 that show. So we want to dial on the ones who registered but didn't show. And then we put them in automations. We put them in like text and email drips and stuff, and just dial on those people and just have the virtual assistant go through like a very simple script, just to try to get 1, 2, 3 of them, whatever, on the calendar, or at least to get them to watch the recording. And then from there, once they kind of go through that list a few times, then now let's talk and let's get to the people that showed up but didn't book an appointment. And then from there, that's pretty much just recycle. Now, once they kind of get through all that, we're on to the next webinar. And it's simple, because we're not trying to go through the super in-depth crazy script or anything like that. It's just like, hey, you signed up for it, and we just want to make sure that you got the recording. If you didn't get the recording, ask them what their questions were, whatever. Just kind of really simple, not salesy. I'm not trying to like shove, like get on Tracy's calendar down their throat, because I don't want the people that have to be pressured into booking an appointment with me. I don't want those people anyways. If you haven't seen the value, you're not taking yourself serious, I'm not going to take you serious. And I'm sick of wasting time on people that aren't going to do that. So for me, it's like, am I missing sales because of it? Yeah, but I'm okay with that. because I'd rather save time than to get more money. That's just me. So I'd rather be way more intentional with the people that are intentional with me. And that's just because it's just kind of where I see my value at. And also, where obviously other parts of my life are more valuable. So like, anyways, to go back to that, a VA is kind of what we're looking at to do something like that. Just like I said, maybe 3 hours a day, 3 times a week, not anything too crazy. So what is that?
Yeah.
9 hours a week?
Makes a lot of sense though, because it's like trying to add that value, and we're in that position. Like we have some leads that we've got to be getting the calling. I thought that was awful English. I apologize.
We've got to be getting the calling.
Yeah, that's right. That's a Southern draw right there. Anyway, but it's just like trying to find that balance. And so, it's like, you just have to figure it out. You'll eventually get there. So, but that's probably the biggest thing in the business is, it's like I'm hitting my goals, but it's still like there is money being left on the table. But is that okay? Yes, because of balance. So I think that's great.
Yep. Yeah, the jack of all trades, like I hear people, their Medicare, their life insurance, their group, their ACA, their annuity, their financial, advisors, there are all these things. And that's cool if that's your business model. It's whatever. If you're trying to make sure that no stone is left unturned for business, that's totally fine. But I'll tell you what, man, you start going after one of those things headstrong, you'll find yourself having more time and more money. I promise you. But you have to do those things when you first start. You have to. And I tell people that too. Like if you just do final expense, you might not know if you like Medicare or not. You might not know if you like annuities or not. It took me, when I first started, I was doing final expense, Medicare, did some IULs, a lot of indemnity plans, hospital indemnity, things like that, home health care, dental, vision, hearing, a lot of that stuff. And then started learning a little bit about the annuity side, realized I did not like that at all. Started to get my Series 65 when I left Bankers Life and went under the guy that I was working with before. Hated it, man. I just wanted to stick to Medicare. It was what I was good at. At that time, I was pretty much specializing in Medicare almost solely. It took me, going through all that stuff and then having to go back to some of it to realize, like, yeah, I kind of like annuities. Not only obviously what they do for me financially, but what they do for my clients financially, obviously, is number one. It took me to go through all that stuff. I've tried group, I tried ACA. We tried ACA just as recently as last year. We tried group just as recently as last year, and I freaking hated it. It sucked for me, but other people might love it. One of my buddies is like he probably has like the largest group insurer. He's probably one of the biggest group insurers in the entire nation out of Texas. It's Steve Godfoil with Affordicare. The guy does so much business, and he is a multi-gajillionaire, and he's like 33 years old or 35 years old or something like that. Like a guy like him that just went after it just like full bore. Look what it can do for you. So anyways, business models are important.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off of what you and Don were saying too. Like one of the great books that we read like every quarter with the office is the E-Myth. Like kind of go through that. It's an old school book, but it's been around forever. And what I've learned in business is that you want to have a system. It talks about having a system-driven business versus a personality-driven business. So like you're saying, giving up control. I think one of the greatest things that you could do as an entrepreneur is find out what you're good at. And if you can outsource the things you don't want to do, or maybe you're not good at, it could free up time for you to really just be good in your space, right? Instead of you trying to do everything, for everyone and stuff like that. Like it's just a time thing, especially if you have a family and you're balancing then that you want to work, but you don't want to be tied to your business as well, right? So if you can hire somebody or even have somebody, do simple things like you said, Tracy, make phone calls, or Don said, follow up on leads and stuff like that. Those things free up your time, and it's definitely helpful. So I've just found that helpful personally. Exactly. Exactly. Right. So you want to free up time to spend with your family, right? And you can't do that if you are trying to be everything to everyone. So I don't know if that helped, but that's just something that we've kind of lived by, and we're very big on systems and making sure we have systems. Of course, you inspect it, but system-driven business is just way easier to manage and to scale as well.
I agree, man. 100%. That's good. My son wanted to join. He got a little bonk in his eye. See? Say hi, Jackson. Got food on your face. Mondays are he gets to hang out with my assistant, who is my sister. And then mommy gets a break on Mondays. So I get
Is
to
he
kind of
he's the CEO, right?
yeah, he's the CEO.
Cuteness
Chief.
executive officer.
That's it.
That's what we call my grandson.
He's a CPO, chief poop officer.
Oh, that too.
So I have a question for you, Tracy. In terms of annuities, right? I know you mentioned this a couple of times with a lot of these companies that are illustrating like very I guess high returns and
Right.
making all these promises, but when you really look through the paperwork, it's not all that it seems. So how do you kind of vet the annuities that you would recommend, being that there's so many different variations out there?
Well, first and foremost, it's really easy to see which annuities are using back-tested data and which annuities actually have historical data. Now, we're going to assume here that we're not applying par rate strategies or pars, caps, and spreads. We're just using the indexes themselves. So if you look at an annuity and it's illustrating whatever it's illustrating, doesn't matter. Just go Google that index, that whatever it's using to illustrate. And if that, hey, no. And if that index has not even been around that long, then you already know first and foremost that it's back tested, right? So if it's back tested, then it's not that it's bad. You just have to understand, like, you have to dive more into it. Right. So if there's no history on an index like BlackRock and Fidelity and Goldman Sachs and whatever, if there's no history on the index, then you just need to dive in more deep into it and say, okay, is this something that a client should put their money in? And this is where you kind of get into like the investment side, which is why I think a lot of people having securities licenses are ahead here, because they're able to dissect, how those indexes are designed, like what's in there, right? We just looked at one, I think it was Goldman Sachs, it had like 15 different positions inside of it, and they restructure like every 90 days. So like, what are those positions, right? If 3 of them are horrid and suck, and they restructure into all those 3 and they can at any given time, then what is that index really even telling me it can do, right? So it's really hard to use indexes that don't have history on them unless you really know how they're designed appropriately. So if you're gonna dive into a product, the first thing I look at is history on the indexes. That's first and foremost, is history. So I like using, I like sticking with S&P. I know it's vanilla, but I like sticking with S&P strategies. A lot of the S&P low volatility indexes through like Dow Jones, they've been around for 10 plus years, a lot of them. And then just regular S&P, monthly caps, yearly par, yearly caps. The S&P's been around since the 1928, right? And then there's history. Oh my gosh, what the heck did you just do? There's history on it from, well, there's history since 1928, but I think it's backdates investment like 1950 something. Hey, yeah, you can take him. So if you stick with S&P strategies, now you dive into product, product, what's the actual product guaranteeing, right? Is it a product that guarantees a par or a cap or a spread? I would say one of the safest annuities you could probably ever put your money in with a client. Once they purchase it, they know exactly what they're getting, and there's no variables there. Obviously, an income annuity is going to be, probably number 1 there. But if it's not, if it's just like a pure growth, whatever, it's going to be a locked strategy. Like the standard has locked, I think it's pars and caps on their product. So, if you use a historical index, which I don't know if any of them are historical, but if you use a historical index and has a locked in par and a locked in cap for the life of the contract, then there's no variables there that it's like, there's no crazy selling point. It's just like, here is what it is. And when that client buys that, and they know exactly what they're going to get. So stuff like that, I think, is important when you start to break it down. But when you start to deal with variables that can change, like your par and your cap and your spread, now you just look at company rate integrity. And that is probably one of the hardest things to find out there, because nobody publishes that data. I think NLG publishes some. Allianz on their IULs publish some. And Global Atlantic publishes it on one product. It's the 4 accumulation 1, which doesn't even exist anymore. They now have the 4 accumulation 2, but they publish a 100% renewal rate on all their pars and caps, I think, since 2014. You know, that's powerful. That's really powerful to show a client like, hey, this not locked in, not locked to do that, but that's what it is. That's what they kind of have designed it to do. Yeah. So I think when you first start offering annuities, if you lack the knowledge or you lack the ability to go seek that knowledge, then start with the more contractual guarantees first, right? Start with your income riders. And when I say income riders, I mean like your income riders with actual guarantees, not the stupid, forgive me here, but the Allianz 222s that have no guarantees. You don't know what your income's going to do in the future. Okay. There's a lot you can dive into that. I'm not saying it's necessarily a horrible product, but at rates today, you know, we have 10% and 7 and 8%, whatever, you know, compounding and simple interest roll-up rates. That is really hard to beat on a performance-based product. Same thing with the North American Benefit Solutions 10. It's performance-based. There's a lot of performance-based income riders. Remove all of those. Start with income riders that are guaranteed that at year 1, you're getting this. At year 2, you're getting this. At year 3, you're getting this. There is no variables here that says you can't unless the company goes insolvent, basically, right? You can't go wrong with that. That's like, I mean, you know what I mean? It's almost impossible to go wrong with that. When the client has a need, you can solve that need. You can show them that doesn't matter what illustration I show you. It literally doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm glad that you said that too, because I kind of stick with the S&P as well. You know, I do have FINRA licenses, so usually when I'm looking at annuity, I always kind of look at the portfolios that they're invested in. That way I can kind of gauge the strength of the product more so. So yeah, you're spot on with that. Good tip there.
You know, I want to make a comment about that, Tracy. I think when we usually pitch annuities here, we're usually talking about, you know, we say things like, well, the market goes up, you get this. When the market goes down, you're protected. And we use the term the market. And then we put them in these volatility controlled indexes. Like you said, they don't have no real track record. They're just back tested. But what happens is when your customer sees the S&P go up 10% that year, but their volatility control index went, you know, 2%. And they're wondering, well, you told me I was going to get 80% of the upside. You know, the S&P did 10%. And why should I get 8%? Well, because you weren't in the S&P. So using terms like when the market goes up, you get this. When the market goes down, you're protected. You're much better off using the S&P because that's what people relate to the market.
100%. I agree. And when you use like a hybrid index, Danny, when you use a hybrid index, like whatever hybrid index you want to throw in there, Goldman Sachs, whatever, and that hybrid index doesn't follow the same curve as the S&P, you get yourself into some trouble, right? Because, you know, they're probably not going to remember the times where the S&P was down, but the hybrid index was up, which I don't think happens almost ever anyways, right? So they're not going to remember that, but they're definitely going to remember when the S&P was up 10% and you were up 2%. You know, if you were in a 40% S&P strategy, you would have made double that, right? So, and it's an easier explanation too. It's a lot easier. Hey, when the market is down or the S&P specifically is down, you're not going to lose anything. If you hold that participation rate, then when the S&P is up, you're going to make this. But understand that participation rate can change, and that's why that's hard. That's a hard conversation to have somebody. Well, what do you mean it can change? What's my minimum? Oh, your minimum's 10, right? It's like, you know, that's a hard conversation, which is why sticking with a product, you know, when you first start without being able to, if you can't articulate that to a client and you haven't done enough research, sticking with a product with a guarantee makes sense. You know, Midland Accelerate 5 has locked in, NLG has some locked in. I think Pacific Life has some locked in. The Standard has locked in rates. What else? There's very few. But they exist. I always told people that, you know, if I ever were to design a product, I would design it in a way that everything was guaranteed on it. Everything. Like, I mean, like the fixed bucket, guaranteed. The par rate, guaranteed. The cap, guaranteed. And I would use all S&P strategies. I would use monthly sum caps. I would use yearly caps. I would use the Dow Jones, I'd use the Mark 5. I would, well, I probably wouldn't use the Mark 5. I would use the DRC 5 and I would use the DRC 8. I might use the NASDAQ and Russell. Those are fine too. They're S&P betas, they go up same. Maybe use like a gold index or something just because some people like that stuff, just very vanilla. And I would make everything locked. And then I would budget appropriately to make sure I could afford those for the life of the contract, right? If I go buy a bond and it's paying me 6%, and I know that on average, those are running, those at whatever rates are running 3%, and I need a 2% margin, I'm giving myself a little wiggle room, right? That if rates change. So that's pretty much what an insurance company is doing. They're just looking at whatever a bond rate's paying them, and they're looking at whatever their profit margins are, and they're saying, well, we think we can hold this rate for that period of time. And if we can't, then we're gonna have to change it. But then there's companies that lock in the rates because they know they can hold that rate during that period of time. It's just a lot cheaper. That's why they don't have locked pars at 10% or a locked cap at 10% right now, because they know they can't hold that. So yeah, maybe I'll design one day.
That's a good segue into something that I kind of took me a while to get my mind around this. But when you're talking about annuities, and a lot of times you get into the habit of thinking about them or presenting them, we're talking about performance, right? We're talking about performance based. And when you're doing that, you're really trying to compare these to the stock market. They are absolutely not that, right?
Yep.
These are savings vehicles, they're bond alternatives. And so when you dial down the expectation, because look, if they can compete with bonds, that's what you're really doing here.
Yep.
It's a safe store of value.
Yep.
So if I can get 5% on an average return, that's the kind of expectation I'm going to set with my client.
100%.
You'll get some double-digit returns once in a while, right? You'll get some 2s and 3s and 0s too. But if you can get 5%, and that's what bond rates are, interest rates are, let's say 5% right now, right? Expect to get that. That's what you're expecting to get, maybe a little bit more than that, 5, 6, 7%, with rates as high as they are. But when we're talking about these things that illustrated 8 and 9 and 10% over the 10-year period or 20-year period, that's where you're in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely, man. What do they say? You hope for the best but expect the worst. Well, you should probably always start from that worst perspective. Hey, worst case scenarios, you're not going to make any money in this thing, right? Okay, well, let's talk about probably what it's going to do and probably what it's going to do. And this is why I always illustrate. So like when I'm illustrating a product, depending on the product, if I'm illustrating an income annuity, you have to show them an illustration, but I literally illustrate it at whatever lowest rate is, because I am never talking about growth in that thing. I'm saying, hey, Mrs. Jones, you are going to completely deplete your principal over a 12 to 15 year period. Just letting you know that. That's how the product is designed. Mm-hmm. But you're getting that income for the rest of your life, even if you live to be 95, right? So you start from there. And then when I'm illustrating like a bonus product, it's like 3 to 4, maybe in some cases a 5% bonus on average. So I don't care, even if it's an index that I'm going to use, if it illustrates higher than that, I'm not illustrating that index. I'm going and picking indexes that are illustrating inside of that that window that I want. I just did it for a person today. I said, hey, I was sharing my screen with them, and I was actually illustrating that in front of them, showing them like the back end of kind of how we get to what we get to. And people like that, by the way. I do it often. And I said, you saw me choose these. These aren't the ones I would actually use, but if I use the ones I'm actually going to use, it's going to make it look a lot better than it probably will perform. And I explained as to why that is to them. And they're like, oh, okay. So, I picked, I don't know, whatever indexes it was that illustrated lower. And like the difference was so different. It was like I think it was like a 4.5% compared to like a 7.5%. And the difference was wildly different, obviously, on an illustration. And I showed them like, this is why we don't do that. Because, this past 10 years were great, right? Mm-hmm. Past 10 years were phenomenal. But the next 10 years, we have no idea what the hell they're going to do. And our market's being really funky right now. And interest rates are really high right now. So everything's illustrating really well. So let's be conservative, right? So starting from that base. And so, bonus. And then if you're going to do an accumulation-based annuity, which we do find a lot of clients like those. You know, accumulation-based annuity, we're going normally between the 5 and 6% mark on those. It's funny, Cheryl Moore actually recently, what did she say on a post on her LinkedIn, something about illustrating at 6%, and she thought that was wild. Illustrating at 6%, and I was like, man, I thought that was really conservative on some of these products, but even she's saying that that's not conservative. So I don't know, maybe I'll go back to illustrating like more like 5 or 4.5. I don't know. But the point is, the point in all of this, when we talk about annuities, and this is for everybody, is to understand that an annuity 4% or 3% is very powerful compared to an equities 3 or 4%. You are not comparing these to clients or bonds, right? You're not comparing them to clients. It's powerful because of that power of zero inside of them, right? Compared to something that doesn't have that zero floor, like a bond or whatever. It's very powerful. You don't have to get a 6% average to make as
Right.
much money as a bond making 6%, right? You don't have that because you have that sequence of return. If you guys aren't familiar with it, you need to go look it up. You have that sequence of return. So you need to, in explaining that and articulating that to a client too, saying like, Mrs. Jones, listen, we're not, everything you think you know about averages, forget it.
Right.
Because we're talking something totally different now, right?
Averages matter on the accumulation side, but when you're talking about this end of the money, it's all the math changes. Averages go out the window.
Exactly. Cool.
Question, Tracy, if you didn't mind. I know you mentioned, and great commentary, Daniel. I know you mentioned webinars. Just curious how long you've been running webinars and how are you finding like your success ratio with them?
So we're on our 4th webinar right now. And we're getting about 100 households average. Attrition rate's about 60 to 70%. So we have about 30 that show, roughly. Average appointment booked is probably 30%, 33% of that, so a third. So we're getting about 10 appointments, and then with automations and stuff, we're trying to get another 5 out of there. And we're closing now. Remember who I am. Not that sounded really egotistical. Just remember that I really know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for I've been doing this at this level for, it's not that long, but I've spent a lot of money doing it. So the experience in a short period of time. But I've been doing presentations for since 2011 because that's what I did in the military. So I'm a pretty good presenter. So with that, we're probably closing about an 8x on our ROI, 7x ROI on it. We're spending about $6,000, and we're probably making probably between 30 and 50,000 on the $6,000 that we spend. So it's very good ROI. But the average with this guy we're using, he's saying that the average appointment book is probably more close to like 20%. So we're well above average there. And then the close rate that he does track, which advisors share with him, they're at about a 3x ROI. So you go spend $6,000, you're hoping to make 15 to 20 roughly. But in my process, it's so time consuming. I can't really run more than 15 appointments at a time, not at a time, but in we do one a month because it's a 4-step process for me. We're booking the appointments, which is over the phone, right? We're going from over the phone, vetting that person, making sure that we're a right foot, fit their right foot, and there's opportunity for us to work with them, or else I'm just wasting my time. We then book a Zoom appointment from that meeting. So we've now went one appointment, which could last 20 minutes, and it could last an hour, okay? So we go from that to Zoom. The Zoom, we're doing a fact finder, okay? In-depth fact finder, about 4 pages long, getting as much information as possible. Depending on that, we might need to book another appointment if we're doing like an annuity replacement opportunity there. We need to call the insurance company or whatever to get all the information. We might have another one, but normally from there, we put a proposal together. So that gives me enough information to figure out, what suits them. I put the proposal together, and these, by the way, each appointment is about a week apart. So we're on 3rd week now, sometimes 4th week. Proposal. We're then presenting that to them, and then we're normally, if we can close it right then, perfect. If we can't, then it's think about it for the next week, and then we're coming back. So now we're 4 weeks to 5 weeks off. And that's depending on when we book that appointment, they can book within 2 weeks. So it could have been the seminar 2 weeks, week. We could be almost to 2 freaking months now. And then we're closing the business. So that's why when you're booking, people don't think about this. Well, you want 10, 15 appointments, whatever on your week, on your calendar a week. But if you did that and you're a 4 appointment process, how many weeks until your calendar has 70 appointments in it? Make sense?
Right.
You have to really be careful with that. So for me, I can't do more than that. That's why for me, I don't think I'll ever get to Chad's level, like Chad Owen. I'll only ever do 40 million a year in annuities because my process is way different from his. His is like appointment booked, close the sale. Mine is like appointment booked, 6-step process, and then try to close the sale. It's super educational, relaxed, makes the client not feel like they're, being just, I don't know. I like the not salesy approach. Not saying that Chad's a sales guy, by the way. His approach is very good. But it's just different. So that's why for me, like, I would say my process, even perfected to like the T, I can't imagine somebody doing, unless you're really targeting high net worth people. I can't imagine you're going to do over 25 million a year doing it. I mean, even with me, I think I'm going to struggle to do that without referrals and other things. I think I'm going to struggle to hit 20 million a year doing it. Yeah, I know. Oh, horrible struggle, Tracy. 20 million a year. I know, I get it, but I'm just saying it is a process that is not meant to scale. That's for sure. But it's what I like to do because it frees up. I can still free up time for me to do these types of things, right? To hang out with family, to train my agents, have conversations with them. I'm not trying to book my calendar up, 100 appointments a month. It's just not it's not me. So that's my process.
I kind of mirror that, Tracy. I'm more like you, the education process. And part of the thing is along the way, those 4 or 6 weeks that you're meeting with that person and you're educating them along the way, what you're also doing is building that relationship, building trust. And that's
Definitely.
very, very important. I know some agents out there that spend a lot of time and money putting out a lot of content out there. And so then people are watching their videos over and over. They get to where they feel like they know that person. And when they actually get to the point where they're on the calendar, it really is a couple of appointments and you're done.
Yep.
But normally it's building that relationship over those 4 to 6 weeks.
Yep. Yeah.
Try not to push too hard, but try not to let them go too far away. And
yep.
It's a balance, right?
It's a balance, man. You hit it on the head, Danny. Yeah. And another thing is when it comes to Chad, 50% of Chad's business comes over the radio. So, I mean, these are people that have listened to him. That's a really great point, Danny. People have listened to him constantly, right? So by the time they do book that appointment, it's almost like they're old acquaintances. For me, it's fresh. It's like, this is your first time meeting me. We're not doing anything else. Now, granted, for the leads that do come in, I do drip stuff, and we're doing some other advertisement stuff that we're working on, but the whole point of my process is I wanted to make it replicatable that any agent could plug into it and do it day one, like with the right knowledge, which obviously we have the academy and whatnot for that, with the right, I would call budget. It's not like you're building up this brick and mortar that has taken you so many years to build up. It's like you can plug and play into this. Like anybody can do it, but can you do it successfully comes with all the knowledge behind it, right? So that's why I started going down that approach, is because I have so many other agents that need that, right? It's like I've molded my practice, if you want to call it a practice. I've molded my processes, and I'll just call it practice, to where other people could do it with the right guidance. Man, I could go blow a bunch of money on billboards and TV commercials and all that stuff and probably build an amazing local presence, which, by the way, I am doing billboards here soon. I could probably do that, but then it's like, okay, Tracy's this, $30-40 million a year producer now. How do we do it? It's going to take you a lot of money, a lot of time.
Yeah, but I think the blessing that you're paying forward, and this is one thing, like for somebody who started in annuities not with you to move over to be able to get that education is so powerful that you have planted trees that you may never sit under, Tracy, that is going to go everywhere. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. What is such a blessing that pays you much farther, in my opinion. And I'm very blessed for that.
Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate that. And yes, I did pay her to say that. So let me know if you want any contracts.
I like
everybody.
that comment. Trees that you'll never sit on.
Sit under.
Sit under, right? Not on.
That is good. That is good,
Yeah,
Dawn.
under, but yeah,
Yeah.
under. I said under.
Yeah, that's good, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. But also remember that's me being selfish because I like to see other people succeed. It kind of gets me that high. It's just a personality I have. So if I don't help other people succeed, I feel like I'm withering away, honestly. People ask me why I created Annuity Giants and why I started contracting agents to help them out. And it was because I'd probably be a lot less successful if I didn't do that, because it's almost like I'm not a self-motivated guy. People think that about me. I'm not. I am motivated because of my family. I'm motivated because of the people who count on me for information. But if I didn't have family and I didn't have anybody watching me do what I do, I'm telling you, I would probably be a drug addict on the street living in a ditch right now. I'm not kidding. I'd be in a way worse spot. I have to do those things. But anyways, cool. Well, we're wrapping up an hour here. I know there's a couple people that just kind of sat and listened. That's cool. We like interaction, and I know I dominate conversation sometimes. I apologize, but that wasn't the point of this. The point of this was to go back and forth and chat and have other people talk too. So, yeah.
I like
Next.
to pick it on what Daniel said about content, which is so true. So one of the things, everybody processes a little different. So one of the tools that we utilize is Loom. I'm not sure if you heard of it, but what it basically does is it allows you to record either voice or video messages, but it's pretty cool because you can see when people open it. So one of the things that we started doing is rather than just sending text messages, we do like little Loom messages. It could be a minute or whatever, but also it's a way to keep your face in front of people. Right? Sometimes people get a text and they may not open it, but with the Loom, once they click the link and they watch you, they're seeing not only your face, they're hearing your voice. So that's also one of the things that we've been using. I was just looking at our numbers the other. So in the last month, we freed up, it says 46 meetings. I guess it's on the time, but our open rate is 91%.
Wow.
That's powerful. I just looked at that, and you can get it for free for the first 50 videos.
Yeah, I've known about Loom because Eric Fierro always sends me Loom clips. And I'm like, hey, Eric, I don't know if you guys know Eric. He does the DFY CRM. It's a Go high level version.
Yeah.
He always sends me Loom clips whenever I have a question, and I've known about it for a while, but I've never used it. But man, you're reminding me, I really should use that. Well, you know what I used to do? I used to record YouTube videos, publish them, and then make them private, and I put them into different marketing things that I would do for like when a lead came in and maybe I talked to them for a second, maybe I couldn't get a hold of them. It was like a different level. Like, hey, watch this video. Tracy Lonsberry wanted. It was just like this personal introduction. I should have used Loom for that. I should start using Loom for that stuff.
One of the things that you want somebody to do it for you, because we upload stuff on YouTube too. So you could take like, I guess, some of your most frequently used YouTube videos and just upload them to your Loom. But you have to have the paid version, which I think is like $9 a month, or you could pay for the year. It's like $90 a year. It's like, it's
easy. Yeah.
At least when you send them out, you can know who's watching them, which is pretty cool. So it's kind of like, marketing without the expense, because now you know who's watching your video, shows you how much time people are watching your video. Another tool that I utilize just real quick is called Mail Tracker, which you can add to any email that you have. Basically what it does is it shows you when somebody opened your email, how much times they open your email, if they opened up a PDF, if they clicked the link. So you just gotta have systems in place. So like, you send an email to someone and they say, well, I'm gonna look at it. How do you know if they looked at it? With that, as soon as they open it, I know. And then it shows me this person opened up this email 8 times. Sometimes it's 2 months later. Somebody open up an email you send 2 months later. So just little systems, little things that you do that kind of, can help your business grow. So hopefully that helps anybody.
Great stuff. I like hearing it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Thanks. Appreciate that. All right. It's been an hour. I'm going to head out. Thanks for everybody for joining. Make sure to show up next time. We know this is the whole point of all this is to not have like an itinerary or anything like that, but I always have things that I can talk about. But it'd be nice to just get as much participation as possible, because obviously soaking in information is one thing, but like if there's anything specific, this is I'm going to use a very interesting term I don't think I've ever used, but this is a safe space. Okay. So if you feel as though like, you're never going to get made fun of or anything, because if anybody ever did, or if whatever, I'd kick them out instantly, and ban them for life, and then make them feel stupid about themselves because I'd be a savage. No, I'm kidding. So anyways, it's talk about whatever you want to talk about. And even if it's not annuities, doesn't have to be annuities, could be other things too. That's fine. So, all right, I'm out, y'all. Thanks for
Appreciate-
coming.
See you
Bye,
guys.
everybody.
See ya.
Bye bye.
Blessed day, everyone.
Thanks, Jason.